Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, learner, we're taking a closer look at a brand new bike that's just hit the scene, the 2025 Buell SuperTouring adventure bike.
That's right. We've got our hands on a pretty detailed review, fresh off the press from sportbike.com, written by KR and Gertie, just published yesterday, May 20th. It really, puts the Super Touring under the microscope.
And our mission here for you, learner, is really to pull out the essential info. What's this bike truly about? We want to get a feel for its strengths, maybe where it makes some compromises, and crucially, how it stacks up against the big boys in adventure touring. We'll try to skip the super dense technical stuff and aim for those aha moments, giving you a clear picture.
Okay, so first impressions from the article, the 2025 Buell Super Touring. It looks like they're trying to find that sweet spot, mixing performance, comfort for the long haul, and some new tech, aimed at riders wanting distance without sacrificing power or, well, style.
Exactly. And the heart of it, according to KR and Rude, is this powerful, liquid-cooled V-twin engine. The general vibe from the review, it's positioned as more than just transport. It's like a stylish, capable partner for exploring. Your ticket to adventure, maybe.
Yeah, and it's interesting to dig into the details of that V-twin, what makes it tick. So we're talking a reported 120 horsepower at 8,000 RPM.
Okay.
And 90 pound-feet of torque peaking at 6,000 RPM. That's paired with the standard 6-speed manual gearbox, electronic fuel injection,
Yeah.
and of course liquid cooling to keep things running right.
So for you out there, what does that actually feel like? The review mentions smoothness a lot, which sounds pretty key, whether you're just cruising or, picking your way through rougher stuff. And EFI usually helps with fuel economy too, right?
Definitely. And connecting that power to the ground, the chassis and suspension are obviously critical for an adventure tour. The Super Touring uses an upside-down fork up front and a monoshock at the rear. Standard stuff for better handling.
Right.
And brakes, dual discs on the front wheel, single disc on the back. Pretty typical setup for this kind of bike, gives you that strong stopping power.
Now, here's something that jumped out at me from the article. The weight. It lists a wet weight of just 520 pounds. That sounds, well, relatively light for this category, doesn't it?
Absolutely. 520 pounds wet, and just so you know, learner, that means with fuel and all fluids ready to go that's quite nimble. Lighter weight often translates directly to more agile handling. You'd feel that in corners or when maneuvering slowly.
Makes sense.
And the seat height is listed at 32.5 inches. That's sort of a middle ground, suggests it could be accessible for a decent range of rider heights. Plus 7.5 inches of ground clearance. That definitely signals some intention for off-pavement riding.
And we shouldn't forget the fuel tank. 6 gallons. It's a decent size for sure.
Yeah, although, as we'll probably get into when comparing it, that range might be a factor on really long stretches.
Okay, so how do all these numbers translate into actual features you'd use?
Well, the review keeps circling back to that V-twin engine, those power and torque figures. That smooth delivery is highlighted again, good for different terrains, and the EFI gets another nod for efficiency.
But it's not just the engine, is it? The article talks quite a bit about an advanced electronics suite. Okay, let's break that down. What tech are we actually talking about here? What does it do for you, the rider?
Right, so we're looking at modern rider aids, things that enhance performance, but also, importantly, safety. You've got ride-by-wire throttle, that means very precise engine control.
Okay.
Cornering ABS, which is a big safety plus, helps prevent wheel lock even when you're leaned over in a turn.
Crucial.
Traction control helps maintain grip, especially if things get slippery. And then multiple riding modes?
Like presets.
Exactly.
Huh.
Touring, sport, rain, and off-road modes. These let you tailor the bike's throttle response, ADS, traction control, basically adapt it to the conditions or how you want to ride, makes it more versatile.
That sounds like a pretty comprehensive package. Lots of confidence-boosting tech there. Now, thinking about those long rides you mentioned, learner, what's the comfort situation like, according to the review?
Ergonomics seem to be a big focus. The article points out mid-mounted foot pegs and wide handlebars. That combination usually gives you a more natural, upright posture, less strain on the wrists and back over long distances.
Right, reduces fatigue.
And a plush saddle is mentioned specifically, key for comfort. And that 32.5-inch seat height, while helping accessibility, probably also allows for decent padding.
Good point. And what about when the road ends? How much adventure is really built into this adventure bike?
Well, the review uses the phrase rugged off-road capability. A big part of that is the 7.5 inches of ground clearance we mentioned. For you, that means getting over obstacles that might hang up a more road-focused bike.
Uh-huh.
The long travel suspension, those upside-down forks, and the rear monoshock is designed specifically to soak up bumps and keep control on rougher trails.
They mentioned tires.
Yeah, knobby tires are mentioned. Suggests Buell expects people will take it off the tarmac.
Okay, time for the showdown. The article compares the SuperTouring directly with the BMW R1250 GS Adventure and the Ducati Multistrada V4. I mean, those are heavyweights, established players.
They really are, and they kind of represent different philosophies in some ways. Looking at pure performance numbers, the BMW has higher horsepower and torque figures overall. The Ducati, that's often about peak power, very sporty.
Right.
The Buell, with its 120 horses, seems like it's aiming for a balance, maybe more usable power across different situations, on-road and off, rather than just chasing the highest number.
So a strategic positioning, perhaps.
Yeah.
Hitting that sweet spot of enough power without the extreme.
That's how it reads, yeah. Focusing on usability, maybe approachability too.
What about handling? That's huge, especially loaded up or on tricky surfaces.
This is where that lower weight on the Buell could really make a difference for you. 520 pounds. Compare that to the BMW, which the article pegs at 584 pounds. That's quite a difference.
Significant, yeah.
Should make the Buell feel more agile, easier to flick around, easier to manage. The Ducati is closer, 528 pounds, but the review notes its design leans more towards sporty road riding than the Buell's sort of all-around adventure focus.
Okay, and just the overall design, the vibe each bike gives off.
The Buell's described as kind of rugged, but also street-friendly, a blend. The BMW often comes across as more premium, maybe even a bit stately, geared for big tours. And the Ducati, definitely sporty, aggressive lines, more Italian flair.
All right, let's get to maybe the most interesting comparison point for a lot of people. The price?
Yeah, this is where the Buell really makes a statement. The estimated price is $18,999.
$18,999. Okay, how does that compare?
Well, it significantly undercuts both. The BMW is listed around $21,995.
Okay, $3,000 less.
And the Ducati, way up there at $25,995.
Wow, that's a big gap. Almost $7,000 difference with the Ducati.
Exactly. It's not just cheaper. It suggests Buell's is targeting riders looking for serious value in this segment. Maybe you don't need the absolute bleeding-edge performance numbers, but you want a capable, modern adventure bike.
So it's carving out its own niche, an accessible contender. Let's circle back to the design and comfort then. Rugged, adventure-ready design. What does that mean in practice for you, the rider?
It seems to be about function, minimalist styling, maybe. The knobby tires and ground clearance are obvious visual cues for its off-road potential, and the compact frame contributes to that nimble handling we talked about.
And the rider-friendly ergonomics you mentioned.
Yeah, that 32.5-inch seat helps more people get their feet down comfortably. Wide bars give good leverage for control, especially off pavement or at loose speeds. And the plush saddle plus that smooth suspension system work together to keep you comfortable for longer stints, absorbing bumps, reducing vibration.
That lightweight handling theme keeps popping up, that 520-pound wet weight. How does that really impact the ride for you?
It just suggests quicker reactions, easier direction changes, less effort to maneuver whether you're dodging potholes or navigating a trail. And importantly, the review notes it still feels stable, despite being relatively light. That's crucial for confidence at speed or on iffy surfaces.
Right, you don't want flighty.
No, exactly.
And that suspension system, upside-down fork, adjustable rear shock, sounds like a quality setup, especially if you load the bike up.
Absolutely. It's designed to handle bumps well, giving a controlled ride. The upside-down fork usually offers better stiffness and feedback, and being able to adjust the preload on the rear lets you compensate for luggage or a passenger, keeping the handling consistent.
Okay, so let's try and summarize then. Based on this KR and Greer review, what are the big advantages of this 2025 Buell SuperTouring?
Okay, key plus points. That V-twin engine seems powerful enough, but also aims for efficiency. The advanced electronics good safety net adds adaptability. Comfortable ergonomics for longer rides. Genuine ruggedness for off-road, thanks to clearance, suspension, tires, and that lighter weight. And probably the biggest headline? The affordable price point. Huge value compared to the main rivals mentioned.
Okay, but no bike is perfect. What about potential downsides or limitations highlighted in the review?
Fair point. It does note the power output is lower than the BMW and Ducati. If peak power is your main goal, that's a factor. The 6-gallon fuel tank, while decent, means less range compared to something like the GS Adventure with its massive tank. More fuel stops on epic journeys.
Hmm.
And while it's capable off-road, it might not match dedicated, more extreme adventure bikes, maybe thinking KTM here, though they weren't in the direct comparison. Brand recognition and dealer network size for Buell is still, well, developing. That could be a practical concern for some buyers.
Service and support, yeah.
And finally, those advanced electronics, while great, could feel a bit complex initially for riders not used to them. A bit of a learning curve, potential for tech issues down the line, maybe.
That seems like a very fair assessment. Now, the article helpfully included some FAQs. I bet these answer questions you might have, learner. Let's quickly run through them. First up, the price again?
$18,999 estimated. Big value point.
And the power, is it enough? How does it feel?
120 horsepower, 90 pound-feet. Described as well-suited for various riding, highway to trails, good all-arounder.
How does it really stack up against the benchmark BMW R1250 GS Adventure in a nutshell?
Okay, Buell. Lower price, lighter weight. BMW, more power, bigger tank. Depends what you value most.
Suspension specifics.
Upside-down front fork, monoshock rear with adjustable preload. Quality components.
Ground clearance for off-roading.
7.5 inches. Good for light to moderate off-road adventures.
Fuel tank size one more time.
6 gallons. Decent range, but less than some competitors.
Is it suitable for a newer adventure rider, a beginner?
The review suggests yes. Manageable power, lighter weight, and the safety electronics make it approachable.
And finally, long-distance touring. Is it truly capable?
Yes, it's built for it, but that slightly smaller tank might mean planning fuel stops a bit more carefully than on some other bikes. Still very capable for moderate touring.
Okay, so wrapping this all up, learner, what's the big picture on the 2025 Buell SuperTouring?
It really looks like a well-balanced adventure touring bike. It offers this compelling mix of performance, useful features, and especially affordability. Its main strengths seem to be that value proposition, the agile handling from being lighter, and its versatility for both paved roads and heading off them.
Yeah, it sounds like it might not win every single spec comparison on paper against the top dollar competition.
All right.
But it delivers a really solid package for the money. You're getting modern tech, comfort, and genuine adventure capability without completely breaking the bank.
Precisely. And while you need to weigh those potential drawbacks, slightly less power, smaller tank range against the cost savings and its other strengths, it really comes down to your priorities as a rider. What do you need for your kind of adventure?
All right, learner, let's leave you with a thought to chew on. Considering this blend of features on the Buell SuperTouring, and especially that more accessible price, how might a bike like this change your perspective on adventure riding? What sort of trips, what kind of journeys might suddenly seem possible now? Something to think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.